Hello, everyone. I'm Henry DeVries. Welcome to one of our regular Q&As. It's to bring up a topic about marketing with a book and a speech, and then draw on the wisdom of the team and the community. So I like the family to get together on a regular basis and help each other. And we have one of the family members who's going to talk to us in a minute, Ellen Melko Moore. Um, and then I always encourage ask questions and ask questions in this way. Um, Hi, I'm, your name, and I've written the book, title of book. And my question is because I want to encourage everybody to go ahead and we're not promotional on these calls, but please put your name and your book and how to reach you, because there's a lot of cross-pollination that needs to happen. I call it amplification of each other's work. And that's one of the purposes of this call, is to have a community and a place you can check in and bring up your book to other people. Consider this a showcase opportunity for you. We also have people who are just wanting to know about our work and who we are, and we allow them to guest in. We're happy to have them and answer any question they have about marketing with a book and a speech. With that, I want to introduce Ellen Melko Moore, who Forbes.com calls one of America's leading LinkedIn experts. I believe that was me at Forbes.com who called her one of America's leading experts, and I believe it. Having interviewed many of them, including my article today in Forbes.com is with a LinkedIn expert from Northern Ireland, and her work helping small businesses in the UK got her an invitation to Buckingham Palace, where King Charles personally thanked her for her help on LinkedIn. So, Ellen, there's your mark. Our aim is to get you invited to Buckingham Palace. I think Dame Ellen Melko Moore has a ring to it. So, Ellen, please, you've got the floor for 5 to 10 minutes here, and then we'll open it up, and people can ask Ellen a question, Henry a question, Devin a question. So, with that, take it away, Ellen.
Well, gosh, I'm glad that when you said I was arguably America's top LinkedIn expert, which I think is great. I quote that all the time to people because, like, you could argue that I am, you could argue that I'm not, but honestly, Forbes said it, so who cares? Why are we still talking about this?
Forbes says,
it all works out, right?
right.
And I'm super glad it didn't earn me a invitation to the White House to be thanked personally by our leader at the time that happened. So
Okay.
awesome. Because there's some folks here who had to listen to me a couple weekends ago about LinkedIn, I'm going to come in from a slightly different direction. So here's what I'd like people to get about the whole world of content marketing, thought leadership, digital thought leadership, brand, position, messaging. Most of the time, when I'm talking about brand, people are talking about messaging as kind of the same thing. So we're going to think about it like that. But all a brand is who's your target market? What problem do you solve? And what's your reputation for doing that? Right. And so one of the great sort of hidden, well, what is a brand? Well, it's what people say when you're not in the room. That's your brand. It's the good things people say. It's the negative things people say. It's you on your best day. It's you on your worst day. But part of the way we control that narrative is by, and one of the better, easier ways to control it is by going tighter. So my company is called Super Tight Brand, Super Tight LinkedIn. Go tighter for a more lucrative audience is one of the ways to do that. So often when we elevate and go after a more profitable, lucrative, and enjoyable audience, and we get real clear, we put our hand up for those people. Claim your clients or someone else will, period. There's someone else who's like, yep, I'm willing to step up and really create a category for my group. And so as what people are saying now is that is about as many as 10,000 people a day in the English speaking world are becoming coaches, consultants, and experts. 10,000 new people per day.
Hey.
So, right? So I'm not great at math. Isn't that like about 3.6 million that are here now that weren't here last year?
I will stipulate that.
Will you stipulate that?
Nobody
Okay.
said math was involved today.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I used to be an English professor, so don't listen to me about numbers, but I think these numbers are fairly accurate. This is what I see. A year ago, if I was on LinkedIn and I was searching for high fee sales consultant for 6 to 7 figure women, sounds like a pretty super tight thing, right? Sounds like that's pretty locked in. I might have found 10 people. Now I would find 1,000. Easy. Go try it out if you don't believe me, right? So it's like a pair of sweatpants. The edge, you buy new sweatpants or joggers or whatever, and they're like, it's like snug, hopefully in a good way, right? Like not too tight. And then over the years, those sweatpants stretch out and stretch out and stretch out and stretch out. And like pretty soon you got like another tie to keep them on. And that's what brands are like. That's what concepts are like. That's what your offer is like. So what we're always looking for is how can we tighten this up a little bit? And this is where LinkedIn is the banging, beautiful thing it can be. So if you're Henry DeVries, for example, you might have one target client generally, but you might use your LinkedIn profile because, it's not that his profile was doing him no good, but now he really wants to power it up. So he uses that profile to go after a more specific target audience and he claims them loud. And the internet's like, okay, cool. Henry DeVries, agency rainmaker book guy. Got it. How many of your people can say so-and-so, blah, 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 blah? Got it. If you have to explain it, if it takes a long time, you are putting friction in the way of your brand. Now, this is normal, right? It's like trying to land at an airport. Sometimes we're in the process of creating something and it's evolving and we're catching up with it. And we hear different phrases, we use different phrases, and you're like that plane circling the airport. Like you're right where you're supposed to be. You just haven't quite landed yet. So this isn't a bad and wrong, like you're doing something, whatever, you should be faster. It's not that. But this is what your LinkedIn profile is so useful for. Because most profiles, when I look at them, I have no idea who the target client is. I have no idea what a sales expert is. I don't know what this or that team leader means. So I keep going. And so does everybody else. When someone Googles your name, the first thing that comes up is your personal profile on LinkedIn. So let's say your buddy tells another buddy about how great you are, and that buddy Googles your name, and the first thing they see is your profile, and the first thing they see is the top of your profile, and you're not making it easy for them to go, oh, okay. They're going to keep moving a lot of the time. And so your website could be this thing of beauty. They may not even get there. So the message of the day are, 1, go tighter if you want to go faster. If you don't want to go faster, don't go tighter. And maybe you don't, and that's fine. Maybe you're in a process of evolving and thinking, and all that's good too, right? And 2, if your LinkedIn profile and your LinkedIn activity isn't doing much for you right now, when I asked this question at Henry's conference, like how many of you is your LinkedIn profile and activity making you thousands of dollars a month? There was one person in the room who raised their hand. So why not? Why not use it to test new messaging, new targets, tighten things up a bit? You can change your headline and your banner. That's that big box behind your head. You can change that in minutes and find out pretty quickly. So that's what the focus of our work is. I'm a LinkedIn expert. I'm really a positioning expert. I'm just a LinkedIn expert in disguise because I love using LinkedIn to do this kind of thing. And our typical clients at least double their revenue, many of them 3, 4, 5x. And they spend half as much time on social media because they're not sitting around throwing 8 things out there to a bunch of platforms, but not really sure how it's landing. So the end. Henry, how was that?
It was great. Let me take the talking stick for a second.
Please.
So the year is 2002. And I know I need a super tight focus. And I know I help people in professional services. So I said, what's the most lucrative one? What's the biggest group? Attorneys. So I decide to experiment and I create a program called the $1 Million Law Firm. And I partner with an attorney who built a $1 million law firm. And I did a 6-month campaign. Meanwhile, people on my staff said, Henry, we keep getting these inbound inquiries and people want information. I said, are they attorneys? They said, no. I said, who are they? He said, well, generally, I guess I'd call them a consultant. And I said, I really don't have time to deal with this. Could you just take our 25-page document that we send people and do a universal replace for attorney for consultant? They said, that's going to not work. It's going to be kind of wrong. And I said, I don't want you to spend any more time on it than that. So they send these out. 6 months, 0 attorney clients. We have more consultant clients than we can handle. They saw through all this and said, oh no, this guy's for consultants. But in evolving, I tested other things to be more super tight, as Ellen would say. And after helping 150 people with books, I said, the people who get the best results and that I go on vacation with are ad agency, direct marketing, digital marketing, PR agencies, these people. And so we declared that super tight focus with Ellen, who I'm helping do a book, and she's helping me. And it's exploded with the number of people. Oh, and we not raising your prices, but I doubled prices and provided more service to these people because they need more help than the average consultant. Because yes, and so I'm just saying, you can sell to anybody you want and who shows up. I want you to do super tight marketing, especially on LinkedIn, with a niche. And the more or niche if you're in Canada.
Yeah.
Riches and niches, I guess, is what
Niches
they
that are
say
in
in
the
Canada.
niches. Yeah.
Niches, yes, in Quebec, eh?
Yay.
Yeah, okay. I worked 7 years in Canada, so I speak Canadian. I can say washroom and Davenport and niches. Also, schedule and project. Devin will say I still say those. I still pronounce those words
Tell us
after
a
being
bit
conditioned.
that, Henry.
Yeah, I'll tell you more about that in another
Yeah.
call. So wanted to open it up, and Devin, if you could put us on gallery, please. And you can put questions into chat and Devin will help monitor that, or you can just raise your hand. And if you have a question for Ellen on LinkedIn or Henry on books, Devin on social media and book production. So open it up to anyone here.
I have a question.
Yes, I recognize Matthew.
I have a question for Ellen. It's very funny that you're on today because, well, not funny for me, anyway, but I just finished a LinkedIn promotional type of thing. They were doing my posting for me, and I ended it because I was getting no response. It was very unsuccessful, even though I paid them what I thought was a lot of money. And my question is, I think that there are some services, without getting too deep in detail, that's what I think there are some services for which people do not search on the internet. So I was more like I'm still pleased with what he did because my presence is there. I think by posting it adds a presence. So if somebody does look at it, they go, yeah, this guy really does know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
He posts a lot and he is an expert. But I think there are some services out there. People aren't saying, let me search the internet.
Okay, I think I can handle this. So it's how do I market if I have a service that it's really people don't search for it on the internet. And I will admit that's our service too, Matthew. Now, you could argue that people do Google us. You know, I have a strange sense I was being Googled, and they check things out and all that. And through reaching out to people on LinkedIn and not being salesy or like a chat bot, I have been gaining a lot of traction in the last 3 months. But having said that, it's always, you should put on small scale seminars. But the best way to find those people to attend are through LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the world's greatest B2B database, and it is such a bargain. Two, you need to be speaking in front of target rich audiences. So when you super tight who your niche is, when I was speaking in a lot of places, now I don't get on an airplane unless it's a room full of agency owners. So, you know, I will do podcasts with other people, but I am not going to travel and invest money unless it's a room full of my people. And it's anywhere from 50 to 300 of them. Okay. Then the third thing is through your writing and having people write about your book, and also a LinkedIn newsletter. We have started a pod with Ellen for our LinkedIn newsletters for the IFF family. And I went from 0 to 1,500 subscribers in 2 months. And I didn't do any subscription campaigns. I just followed this procedure that Ellen teaches about how you do a LinkedIn newsletter. So that's no cost to me. And I'm getting a lot of people who want to have conversations with me about what we do. So I think that variation of the 3 strategy is there, but it's not necessarily that search engine optimization is going to be the answer for any of us on this call. And I know we all get hit by offers every day for this. And if you're seriously considering one, have a call with me. We can spend 7 to 17 minutes and I'll give you my opinion. I know Chris Hodges is was Chris on the call? Might have to drop off. But we just had a conversation like that where it was a bright, shiny object disguised as a business development opportunity. So when I talked him down from it, I said, yeah, invest your money in other places. Matthew, I hope that helps. Okay, yes, Marcy, good to see you. Your question, please.
Yes, thank you. Great to see you, Henry. So my offering, helping the world choose to show up, which can manifest as corporate speeches and projects, right? Given my 20 years of management consulting background, it can target anybody. So as I think about your recommendations, seems like the real key for me is to figure out what my kind of tight target should be. So what are your thoughts about that?
I was going to have Ellen take this.
Okay.
We always start with ATP. That's ability to pay. If I can talk to a room full of 5 people with the ability to pay, or I can be a podcast guest on a room for 500,000 people who don't have ability to pay, I'm going to pick number 1 every single time, because I don't want my calendar full of appointments to have lovely conversations with lovely people who do not have ability to pay. So that is number 1. We rate every prospect from 1 to 5 when we're doing this work with people to help them figure out the most lucrative client. Now, again, that's not the only criteria, but there's a reason it's number 1, because this isn't a hobby, right? It's a business. The second criteria is eagerness to pay. That's ETP. Eagerness to pay is not the same thing. You could have the ability to pay for something, but not be eager to pay for it. And sure, we all, gripe a little bit about paying for things, but I'm talking about somebody who has the sophistication and experience, Marcy, to understand the value of what you're talking about before you start talking about it. On some part of their consciousness, they are looking, they are shopping. They may be not ready to buy today, but they're warming up. So eagerness to pay is a different category. The next category is, who do you like being around? Where do you have the most fun doing your work? So who gives you the most energy? Look back at clients you've had over the past many years and see where that is. Now, with your background, just the tiny little bit that you spoke about there, I would be willing to bet there are companies with significant budgets that would have no problem paying you $30, $40, $50,000. So I'd be looking there versus trying to market to anybody who wants to show up. Now, I get showing up, so I'm not making fun of you. The problem is I could literally find hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people to talk about that. But if you, and you may be better than any of them, okay? Like you might be literally the best, and I'm not kidding, you might be. But if we can go tighter, who's this for? Is it for management consultants who are about to become a blah, blah, blah? I have a client named Rusty Gaylord. He's the former world finance officer for a little company called Apple. And then, you know, just this thing you might have heard of. And he left Apple to get into transformational coaching. Well, unfortunately, all Rusty's Apple credentials and all his Apple staff and all his Apple help did not follow him into his new one-person business. So to get him started, we really started specializing for an executive client, and he can transform anyone. He can work with any type A person and really get them to change their way of being and showing up in the world. But when we concentrated on executives who were trying to get that final C-level promotion without killing themselves, boom, right? So, and it doesn't have to be forever, but this is where you can start to experiment with this. And what's brilliant about a LinkedIn profile is, unlike a website, you can change it in minutes. You don't have to call your designer. You don't have to get so-and-so to do this, that, and the other thing. So that's what we're recommending. Is that helpful, Marcy?
So what I think I heard is that I should choose a niche and try it, and then I can choose another one and try it, and I can choose another one.
You can, because nobody is going to write you back and say, hey, last month you said you were blah, blah, blahing, because nobody notices.
Right.
Or if they do, they're like, okay, cool.
Right. So everyone I talk to about, you know, the model of how we choose to show up based on 20 years of research says you have to come and talk to my team, but it's not necessarily people who have the 50K behind it. So that's
no more going to talk to the team if they don't, unless there's some other reason that it would benefit you and them. And, you know, maybe there's a connection somewhere else. So like what Henry was talking about, don't get on a plane.
Right.
Unless they're, you know, don't show up for a podcast or a webinar or a training. If you just have no idea what this person's, who these people are, you know, make them work for it a little bit, basically. Yeah. Reciprocal value.
Ellen, I'm going to jump in with a question from Rick, and then I'm going to go to Alex. And Marcy, please send me an email, because I'd like to invite you to be on my YouTube TV show. To highlight that research. You know, I found it fascinating, and I think others would too. Okay, so Rick, just to brag on him a little, it transforms businesses, and he has $1 billion under management for these businesses. So he's kind of a big deal, and one of the nicest, most humble men I've ever met. He wants to know, and Rick, if you want to ask it, you can, but what is the time commitment required to be proficient on LinkedIn? How much time a week do you need to be investing?
Yeah, so when I heard Ellen in San Diego, and I came up to her afterwards, because I said, how do you go from 0 to 3? Or, you know, I know I'm not going to get to 10, but I also realize you can't necessarily delegate all this to somebody. You gotta dive in, but I also don't want to overcommit or undercommit. So just based on your experience.
Yeah, I would say don't worry about posting every day. That's a waste of time. Post once a week. It's plenty. Make sure you get some engagement. Find a way to do that. I say getting good at LinkedIn is 30 minutes a day. And if you don't have 30 minutes, start with 20. It's just like going to the gym, because there's just a little bit of different things you kind of need to learn and absorb.
Thank you.
Yeah, but 30 to 20 minutes will get you quite a bit. If
you in your book, or do you have a program that people can get coached?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So there's a pod for
Ellen, you were supposed to pause 3 seconds for dignity when he asked that question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm new here. I don't know about my 3 seconds of
dignity. Oh, thank you for asking, Rick.
Well, thank
you.
As a
matter of fact.
Yeah, you can, if you want, just send me an email and I'll send you a link and we can.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah. Thank you. Wonderful.
And Rick, we've organized a group where if it's an option too, because it's the amplification, that half hour you spend. It's really great if we've got other people who are amplifying your work. Just like when I introed you, if you'd said, well, I have $1 billion under management, I was like, oh God. When I say you have it, everybody, oh, it sounds a lot better, right? Okay,
Yeah.
Alex, you had a question.
Yeah, quick question. Alan, is it worth investing in LinkedIn Premium or Sales Navigator, some of the other tools they have on the platform?
The answer is no, unless you understand that what you want Sales Navigator for is there is a toggle that exists only on Sales Nav, and I'm talking about the $80 a month. You don't need the ones that are bigger than that.
Yeah.
There's a toggle that says has been active on LinkedIn in the last 30 days. So they hid that there for an $80 reason. Basically they took just a couple of the advanced search features off of regular LinkedIn, and then they stuffed them behind this wall. That's all that it is. The other thing is, if you're, let's say, Marcy was going after companies and she needed to make sure that whoever this founder is, that they have at least 50 employees. Or let's say someone here is going after $1 million companies and you want to make sure they have at least 11 to 50 employees, right? That next box. That's what Sales Navigator is good for. I never use InMail. I never message people through Sales Navigator. I use Sales Navigator to create the most sophisticated list I can for our clients. Everything else in connections and messaging happens in regular LinkedIn. Is that helpful?
Yeah, very much.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay.
Hey, Angie, meet Dr. Steve.
Hi.
Angie's writing a book about emotions, Steve, and we might need to, or if you'd be open to a conversation to be quoted in her book, that would be great.
I would love that opportunity. Yes.
Thanks. So any other question from the floor here?
I have a question. Is there a person to hire to handle?
Okay, Angie, I'm going to stop you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Angie Weber. I'm
Hi.
writing a book called I Have a Question. So
Go.
when you're ready, Angie, restart.
I'm Angie Weber. I'm starting a book called Knickknacks on the Shelf: How to Control Your Emotions. And I want to know if there are people who are in the industry in which to handle your LinkedIn.
Well, the answer is there are many, many people who would be very glad to do that for you. Very happy to do so. I see, is it Matthew who's below Henry right now? Is it Matthew?
Yeah.
I saw smiles there. So
We're all in different places on the board, so pretty.
Okay.
yeah, you just keep moving around. So here's my answer. We find that the highest results come when the founder and we work on these messaging sequences. So there's, the connection request, what's the next step? How do we get the person in for a Zoom meeting that they're going to love and walk away from like, holy crap, that was amazing, right?
Right.
Yeah. So we work to create that with the founder. Then after that, once we see, and what I'm looking for is, what are the results as far as Zoom meetings with people with ability to pay, eagerness to pay, and then I enjoy being around. That's my only criteria, because other than that, I don't care that much. So then from there, we can plug that in with a VA. We can plug that in even with an automated service. You can use one of those, just go low, do 2 or 3 invitations a day. Like, don't jack up your LinkedIn by sending out 20 a day. You could get shut down. You might not, but you might, and LinkedIn will never tell. So I think it really comes down to at least getting clarity. When you talk to any LinkedIn expert, make sure you ask for testimonials, like go talk to their people about what results they got. Here's the problem. There's a lot of techniques that worked really great in 2019 and people were making LinkedIn billions off of them. And then the pandemic hit. And then the majority of people said, I don't want to read any more stupid incoming messages in my LinkedIn message that pretend they're authentic and personal. So you can all go jump in a lake. So there were all these things that like people made these big reputations on, and they had these big people going, oh yeah, it was great. I made so much.
Yeah.
Money. Right. So just be buyer beware.
Okay.
Is that helpful?
It is helpful, but I have no way to really understand how to maneuver LinkedIn. Like I have a social media manager, and she doesn't really even deal with my LinkedIn.
I've never met a social media manager who did a great job on LinkedIn just because it's not a social media platform. It's a
Got it.
networking platform.
Yeah.
So
Got it.
people try to do LinkedIn like they do Facebook, and it just doesn't translate. Now,
Okay.
that doesn't mean it's a waste of time or it's bad or wrong. Is it really helping you? Is it really worth paying for? I don't know. We'd have to, yeah. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
it's not. Yeah. LinkedIn is doing nothing for me that I can do other than about a million messages come in today of people that want me to hire them.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
what I love about LinkedIn is because of LinkedIn, I know Henry DeVries. Because of LinkedIn,
Yes.
Simon Sinek's coach is my client. Because of LinkedIn, the biggest content marketing guy in the world is my client because I met them on LinkedIn. So I'm
Right.
never approaching LinkedIn with like, I got to meet 5 people today. It's always like, how am I elevating the people I'm around so we continue to go up, and my conversations and every minute of my time is being spent as efficiently as it can be.
Right.
Let me
I like that.
let me tell a LinkedIn cautionary tale.
Yeah.
So and Angie, I do use a VA to do the outreach, but in working with Ellen, my first outreach says, and I'm reaching out to agency owners. And I said, when I was an agency owner, I used to make big plans and watch them go horribly wrong. Now I write about agency owners for Forbes.com. If you get a chance, check out my profile. Okay. But now here's the cautionary tale. I write for Forbes.com. I'm not important. Forbes.com is very important.
Right.
And I realize that, but I'm generous with that, and I'm offering everybody chances to do this. And I'm writing a column, and there's this book that I thought was really great. I want to use it in my TED Talk and all that. So I reach out on LinkedIn to the author of the book and said, I'm reviewing your book for Forbes.com with like 5 minutes of your time on the phone.
Uh-huh.
I get a response, I think, from his social media manager that says, Dr. So-and-so is too busy to talk to people on the phone. If you have a question, send it to questions@drimportant.com. So I didn't do that. I just wrote the column. A few weeks pass. Dr. Important reaches out to me and says, thank you so much for that column. I have my new book coming out, and here's what my new book is about, and I would love to, get you to write about it in Forbes. And I responded, I'm glad you liked the column. It would have been so much better if you had taken the 5 minutes with me on the phone. Then I get a response, oh, when did Dr. Important refuse? So I copied the LinkedIn message that they sent me here.
Oh.
And dun 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 dun. So and I see Brian and Rick here, and I know they're very busy and people, but you also, you don't have to respond to those chat bots.
No.
But you have to look at this and see if there's somebody who you do want to meet reaching out with an honest, sincere question or something you like.
Right. Exactly.
So, yeah, so that's my cautionary tale is don't, I have a VA handle the first thing, but anybody who talks to me, I read those.
Yeah, same.
I don't, yeah. And sometimes I used to have the VA, I said, sort through if it's obvious, but anything where you have any question, have me do it. Now it's just easier that I just read them all. I spend a half an hour at night on LinkedIn, and yeah, there's a lot of horrible people, but I choose kindness and just say no thanks. Another cautionary tale, I said no thanks to somebody who came on right away that they wanted to have a Zoom call with me right away to, I don't know, be my life coach or something.
Right. Yeah.
And I said no thanks. And they responded with F-bombs.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, there's
I'm
some
gonna
fun
throw a flag
moments.
on that play.
Yeah, there's some fun moments. I think it's so easy for people. It's very because that is a horrible part of it. I do the same thing. Like I look through it about 10 minutes at the end of the day. I sort through it and I pretty much ignore everyone who's playing some sort of game because I've seen all the games. Sometimes I accept them anyway because I want their connections to be my connections, but then I don't
Right.
interact with them because they haven't earned that from me.
Sure.
One of the other things I love doing is, let's say somebody tries to connect with you and they're trying to whatever sell you or be the instigator, but you see, oh, this person could be a great referral source, this person could be a great prospect, I'm going to flip the tables. I do this all the time. So when they say blah blah blah, connect, I write back and say, thank you so much for inviting me to connect, but first, do you mind sharing what made you reach out to me in particular? Now, an Ellen person is a try-hard person, and they don't want to look dumb. So they're going to go read my profile, every bit of which is optimized with information they can use immediately. I've had people, no other step has happened. I asked them, they went and read my profile, they came back and they're like, okay, I need you.
So this was my VA reached out to Ellen. Ellen sends that to me. I read it and I went, well, okay, sure. So let me read it and go deep and go, okay, this is why. And that's how it started. But I loved her pushback. Okay, why? And that's also something I found you can't train the VA to do on the first pass.
It's hard.
Why
Yeah.
I'm reaching out to you. And our friends at Predictive ROI who measure all this, they've measured if you start off with this personalized thing versus if you just have something like I mentioned with that Ellen helped me with, which is just something that says, oh, this is not a robot. Oh, by the way, when people say they are interested in Forbes, I said, okay, send me your email and I'll send you my top secret red pill, blue pill instructions. Okay, that doesn't sound like some corporate guy or a chat bot. Because fun is one of our 3 core values. So I'm fun with these.
Yeah.
My wife also said, what if you scare people away with this fun approach you have? I said, oh, that would be really good.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to like working with me if they don't like fun and little side stories and me telling you a joke and all that, because that's, as Devin says, that's Henry living his best life. That's the conversation I want to have. This business of mine is just an excuse to meet interesting people, learn lots of things, and have fun. The side benefit is, we've helped 150 people market with a book and a speech. That's not quite true because we have repeat people. Lisa Apolinsky's doing her 4th book with us. I never thought that would be part of the business model when we started, that people would do their 2nd and 3rd book with us, but it is. Because sometimes we just help you with your 1st book, and then we say the journey begins. It's not publishing the book means you cross the finish line. It means you cross the starting line. And a thought leader or an authority or an expert is not one book and done. They do multiple books. And you keep doing these experiments that Ellen's talking about for course correction. And you can test things with 20 people on LinkedIn to see if it gets resonance. I'm stealing your act, Ellen. Other questions. I think I saw another question in the box. Oh, Marcy.
And Steve.
And then Steve.
Excuse me. Steve has had his hand up for quite some
I
time.
beg your pardon. Steve, then Marcy.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ellen. Thank you, Henry. Hi, I'm Steve Swavely. I'm the author of Ignite Your Leadership. And my question is for Ellen, and it's a question I think I already know the answer to, but I'm going to ask it for the benefit of the group. And that is, Ellen, how much technical expertise do you have to build your LinkedIn profile in a manner that you're talking about?
Steve, you and I, because we've talked a little bit, share a background of, let's just say, technical expertise is neither your top skill nor mine. So I think what I did at first was, oh, hey, a good thing you can do with Sales Navigator is you can sign up for LinkedIn Learning. That's included in the Sales Navigator. So that is one way you can learn, how do I fix my about section? How do I add a featured section? Like, you can ask these questions. But there's also this thing called Google that will also answer any question you want. And Steve, initially, I didn't feel confident about following instructions off Google, but I have learned. So on LinkedIn, it's usually about 3 steps. And I think it's part of the 30 or 20 minutes a day. You just start getting proficient. You just start learning. And I'm happy to work with you on that too, Steve, when we, kind of get into it. I'm happy to show you how to do any of those things. But I think that's how I learned. And I have never met a technical something that I understood or related to ever. So I think it's just a matter of either Google or LinkedIn Learning, and you will get it. It's not terribly hard.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Ellen. Yeah, I will tell you, I was hesitant to get involved with the pod and the LinkedIn, simply because I was like, it scared me. It's like, can I do this? And I'll say, it's been refreshing to see your approach. And your approach is, you're going to start with everybody where they're at and help them move from where they're at. And some people in the pod are going to be further along than others, but I think that's an admirable approach. And it makes it comfortable for everybody to start with their current level of knowledge and be able to grow.
Well, thank you. A lot of people were patient with me. And people used to get quite impatient with me because I'm smart about other things. So, when you're smart about other things, and then people are like, wait, you can't even upload your featured section? Like, what's wrong with you? Right. And so I've been there. It's what I'm trying to say. So
thank you.
Hey, Steve, I'm going to take a last question from Marcy here. But before I do, Steve, you should meet Marcy. And the reason Marcy should meet you is you both speak on leadership. You've both heard each other speak today. You can't recommend a speaker unless you've heard them speak. They don't want you to come back a second time. They want to know, who do you know who's interesting and good? So I'm planting that seed. And I also wanted to thank Devin, because she taught me the magic words. Hey, Google, how do I fill in the blank? And it's amazing what, my other daughter asked me a question and said, oh, wait a minute, you're not Google. I'll ask Google. Okay. Marcy, take us home with your question.
Yeah, just very quickly, because it seems like there's a lot of expertise and authors here, or soon to be authors. So my next book's coming out in the fall, How We Choose to Show Up. My editor is actually George Bush's former chief speechwriter and head of communications. And I thought that would really help me market the book, but I think I don't think that she's going to step in there. So with your company, would you recommend more marketing the ideas behind the book or the book itself?
Thank you for asking. So, with a book like you're going to come out with, I recommend certain things. One, we've really got to look hard at who the foreword is by. 2, who the testimonial blurbs, 5 testimonial blurbs on the back. The order is, I want you doing small scale seminars about the book to your target rich audience that you find through LinkedIn. 2, we got to get on stages. And today, I think the stages, as Ellen have said, are podcasts.
Right, not 10. I have 2 TED Talks anyway, and they stopped counting. I can't even say that millions
You've
of
done a TED Talk?
2.
That's all you need, because you say, well, I'm the author of this book and I have a TED Talk. You've got all the credibility you need. Now you need to get the ideas in the book. So the news release I recommend are tips from the book. People want to do this feature story. I've written a book. Who cares? There are 32 million books for sale on Amazon. Oh, you got another one. Great. What are the ideas that are going to help me? What's in it for me as the reader? So that needs to be the focus of the speeches, of the talks, the articles you get people to write about you, is all about how these ideas are going to make you have a better life. And Angie and I were talking about this earlier. One of my first editors said, Henry, only 3 things people care about. Love, money, and health. Only he didn't say love. He was one of those crusty editors. So, you know, it's romance. Let's call it romance. You could call it sex. But it's that part of our world, making more money, keeping money. You listening, Rick? And then the third thing is health. Angie, you listening? Because you're really health is, you help with relationships and money, but it's really about health, mental health. Steve, you make people more money by understanding neurosciences and how brain science affects people that you deal with.
And I started by helping people. Yeah, I
Okay.
started in the clinical side. So yeah.
Just always start with, how am I going to help people with love, money, or health? If you can do all 3, you got the trifecta. Okay. Thanks today. Marcy, if you want a no-cost strategy session with me, my door is always open to you, and we could spend a half an hour on what I would recommend specifically you do to bring that book out.
Right. And then I become a formal customer because you've totally earned it. And you've been such a mensch today, connecting everybody and elevating everybody here. So, wow. Thank you.
And being Makatunan, I know what the word mensch means. So I'm honored. So stay tuned for our Q&A on how to speak Yiddish coming up real soon. Because some words, only one word will do. And
What
it's
a
usually
mitzvah.
we'll do the whole Megillah, Ellen. Don't worry. Okay. Thanks everybody for being on our Q&A. Devin and I are working on our schedule tomorrow on the future Q&As and what our topics will be, and we'll lay them out. If anybody has a topic you really would want us to cover, just, you know, shoot me one line on it, and we'll put that into the hopper as we plan out the next 6 months. Thanks everybody for being with us today.